Greetings. We are live. Let's see. All right, I know y'all weren't expecting for us to be on tonight, but here we are. We're going to have fun like always. This is Meet the ADC. Tonight we're going to interview Celena Martin, one of our new doulas that's a part of the collective now. So yeah, we're going to give the folks some time to come into the chat room. Welcome everybody. Meet the ADC. All right, y'all know I have to have my little music, so I'm like DJing. Let's see. Okay, so Meet the ADC, of course, for those who do not know. All right. Meet the ADC is pretty much a series that Atlanta Doula Collective has on Instagram. And we just we just kind of interview our doulas, our birth workers that's in our community, just to kind of get to know the ladies, get a feel for these doulas, these birth workers, what they love to do, birth work and things outside of that. So tonight, again, welcome everyone. We'll be interviewing Celena. Celena is, again, she's one of our new doulas that just came and joined the Atlanta Doula Collective. We're so grateful to have her here. And she's definitely been hitting the ground running since ADC. So we definitely appreciate you, Celena, already for the things that you have, contributed. But I'll allow you to come in so you can give yourself, a better introduction. Let the family know a little bit about you. So let's get you in here. Oh yeah, I always forget to introduce myself. My name is Marquita. Everybody calls me Quita Bee. I am your lovely host of Meet the ADC, and yeah, I'm also a doula, birth worker, and dancer, choreographer, all that good stuff. Here we go. Let's add Celena into the mix. Let's see. For some reason, it's not letting me add Celena. Celena, sis, you want to send me another request? For some reason, it's not. If you can. I don't know if that... Let's see. It's not allowing me to let you in, Celena. Let's see. There it is. Here we go. Are you there, sis? Here we go. Yay.
Okay, you can see me.
All right. Yes, ma'am. I can see you. Hey,
you. Hold on. Let me turn it up.
So while you get that together, we just want to give a shout out to our community partners, Sister Song, Black Mamas Matter Alliance, OBGYN and Midwife Associates, Amani Women's Center, Atlanta Birth Center. If I forgot you, just know that it's all love. We appreciate you guys. And welcome everyone in the chat room. Okay, so Celena, let the family know a little bit about yourself. How you doing?
Can y'all hear me?
Can everybody hear? Type in the yes.
Okay, cool. So hey y'all, I'm Celena. I'm the owner and operator of Seeing You Through. A little bit about me. I am a Atlanta native. And I don't know, I've been called to birth work for as long as I can remember. This is what I knew I was supposed to do. I didn't always know how I was supposed to do it, but once I found out that doula was my path into this space, I jumped on it and I owned it. And here I am, just sort of flourishing in this space. So very excited to be here, very excited to be a part of the collective. As Quita said earlier, I am one of the newer members. I joined this year, but I hit the ground running, y'all. Nothing has been more satisfying than being a doula. So
Yay, yay. And again, we welcome you, and we are definitely grateful for the work that you've put in, just in ADC and just in the community, period. Period. So, okay. So, I mean, again, well, you just answered the question, like what called you to birth work? So what was the aha moment, or like what made you decide, okay, I think I'm gonna do this? Like,
I actually tried, right?
yeah.
So, since I was a little kid, I knew like, oh, I'm gonna be in birth work. And so I used to have these dreams as a little kid, like, oh, I was helping moms and babies. I'm in the room when babies are being born and this, and this. And as a young girl, like I thought that meant that I had to be in the institution. I thought that meant that I had to be a doctor or a nurse midwife. And in my head, like I might as well just be a doctor. Why stop at being a nurse?
Right.
And so when I graduated high school, throughout high school, and when I graduated, that's what I did. So I took college courses in high school. I stayed on top of my stuff. Like I went to college as a chemistry major, and then like it just wasn't working. Like it wasn't working, and I was frustrated, So I took some time away from, maybe this isn't, maybe I'm chasing some childhood fantasy is what I felt like. But it kept coming back up. I kept getting all these other jobs. Nothing was satisfying for me. And I had good jobs, especially for like my age. I was moving up in positions, and then I would get into these places and I would get stuck. And I wasn't satisfied. And so I got married last year in April. And not long after, I started having those dreams again, right? And of course, you know how it is in the Black community. You start having dreams about babies, somebody's pregnant, and the room, other than the mom that was giving birth in all of my dreams, the only other woman in the room was me. So I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant. Went crazy, y'all. I went so crazy thinking I was pregnant. I was like taking tests. I promise you, I had to like 20. I'm like, something's not right. But I stepped out of my pride and I really prayed about it. And I really humbled myself before God. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, what does this mean? And the word doula just sort of crossed my mind. And I did some research, like maybe like, I won't even say it was a whole day's worth of research, maybe like 3 hours worth of research. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And later I started my classes, and I got certified within like a month. So it was really all about like divine timing, but it was when it clicked for me, I was like, no, this is the thing I've been missing. And I went after it.
That's awesome. I mean, and it's always interesting to hear people's journey and how they, were called. It's all different, but at the same time, it's still that same calling, like a dream. Or even if, you weren't the one pregnant, you were having that, it was like spirit trying to talk to you, God trying to talk to you, like, girl, you need to talk to the world, like you need to do this work. So I heard that you went to school to be you said chemistry major. So like what are some other like hobbies, talents that you have, or that you do outside of being a doula?
So outside of being a doula, I'm a writer. I used to run a blogging and content creation business. And I did that for a couple years, but it just wasn't satisfying. Like I realized as a creative, it's really hard to just hone in on this one skill and that's all you're doing. And you know what? And I love that I learned it before I became a doula, because I learned that like being a doula, you can't just do one thing because it's so draining. So before I became a doula, I had a chance to run a writing business. I was writing full time, and I mean, like my blog, it was doing this little numbers. Like I was so proud of myself. I'm like, oh yeah. But the point that like I'm having to write posts, and I'm writing like 4 or 5 posts a week. I was helping somebody run a podcast and co-hosting on that podcast. I was editing and doing content creation and editorial work for other businesses. And it just got heavy real fast. I got burnt out super, super, super fast because I was just trying to manage so many things, and still just be like, oh, this super, super big. I was big, in the political space, especially during COVID, the Black Lives Matters, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and rest in peace to all of them, and so many others that we've lost. But that's been my space forever. Like, I'm super like pro-Black,
Yes.
just Black all the time. Um, so that was my space, but it became so heavy because not only was I writing about all the things, but then I was keeping up with the election cycle, and I was like the news reporter for the common person. So everything that I'm seeing and I'm taking in, like, I'm making it clear and plain so that people are understanding it. But it was such a heavy space to be in. Like, I always felt so sad. I felt so like I was just soaking it all in instead of just observing it. And so yeah, so I came out of writing. I still love to do it, which is why I write for the ADC now. And I do find other times to write, like I journal. I write my prayers down because that just feels more for me. Like writing is just my thing, but I've learned to do it in a space that's more all encompassing than just the narrow space that I was doing it in. That's the biggest thing, like hobby wise, that I do outside of being a doula. Otherwise,
Beautiful. I've never heard of writing. Well, yeah. Well, my grandma used to do it. She used to write her prayers down and put them everywhere on the wall, like tape them, like any way she could. So that definitely hit me. Like, that's beautiful, writing your prayers down.
yeah, I sometimes it gets to a point that, like, well, at one point, sometimes, not just at one point, but sometimes, you know, you do it so often it becomes a habit. And so sometimes I have to come out of it, like stop writing them down and go and sit with God, and be in that space so that it's not just a habitual thing that I'm doing and I'm still able to manage a relationship with God. But no, on a regular day, like, I want to go write it down. Even even at my job, I work for Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition of Georgia. Even at my job, we got this cute little thing online that like keeps up with all of our tasks and all that stuff. I can't use that thing. Like, if you saw how many sticky notes I had for my job, like, I got at the end of every week, week of, and then I put the date next week, and I put a whole list. I gotta cross them off to keep up with what I'm doing. Like, I have to write it down. If I don't write it down, I'm gonna forget.
Yeah, and it's important to find that balance though. So I understand, like, writing, but then having time to like be present and
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. I like that. So I mean, you write, you used to have like a editing company, blogging, and like that's awesome. And that's how you kind of, well, not kind of, but that's how you contribute to Atlanta Doula Collective. So like writing for the newspaper.
The newsletter, yeah.
Newsletter, yes. So those are awesome, and you do a really, really awesome job at it, like
Yeah.
on time, always. So appreciate you. So so like, what are your forms of like self-care? What do you do to wind down after birth, or like just a long day, like the go-tos? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I, over the past weekend, finally sat down and like looked at my whole like astrological chart. So all of my, like, put in the time I was born and everything. And I was reading through it, all the descriptions, and it was so on point because my favorite thing to do after a long day, after a birth, really after anything, is to sit down with my husband. Like, just to share space with my husband and my family. Like, that's just what I do. Like, people think it's so weird sometimes when people ask me my hobbies. Sometimes I forget that I like to write. I'd be like, oh, I'm a wife. And they're like, that's not a hobby. Like, it feels like a hobby because I enjoy it so much. Like, I do enjoy it so much. That is my first form of self-care. And I feel like it's just me being poured back into. Like, we don't always even have to sit there and talk, but just like sitting in presence with each other is so important for me. And physical touch, like my husband knows I like to be touched. So just like we tell our mamas with the babies, like skin to skin with your partner is a thing, y'all. I need my face on his chest. Like, I'll pull up his shirt and put my face on his chest when I just need to be touched. It just feels like pouring back into myself and not taken away from him. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't say I like to really explore, like outdoorsy type of exploring, but like I like to experience. So every week we have like a date night. And we try to do something that is more inclusive than just food. So we try to like find a new restaurant and a new experience. So like recently we've been axe throwing was really fun recently. Dang, we just did something else and it was super fun and I can't think of what it was. We used to go hiking, super fun. I've been to Amicalola Falls with all the stairs. I thought I broke my foot climbing up those stairs. It was horrible, but it was so pretty.
It was worth it.
It was so pretty. We've been to Cloudland Canyon. We've been somewhere else. And I like to travel. Usually when I travel, I just go back home to New Orleans. I know I said I'm an Atlanta native, but this does not feel like home to me. My family is in New Orleans. And I go and really just sit in fellowship with them. I think that's pretty much self-care for me. Oh, and getting my hair done. I love to get my hair done.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Love to get my hair done. So that's pretty much my self-care on top of like my journaling and writing and stuff. But I'm trying to find self-care things that are not also work things. So I'm trying to find that balance as well.
Right. Okay, good, good. And it's always good to try, new things, like just exploring things. Like I like a nice bath. Like I pick a day and I'll just take a bath. I'll put some extra little stuff in it, aromatherapy, all that stuff, and then like give myself a mask. And sometimes it'll be that, or like I'll go to Jeju or the sauna. I'll hit up some of my homegirls, like let's go or something, just like you said, pouring back into yourself. So yeah, just exploring different self-care options. And it's always good to recommend that to the moms. Just
listen,
and even hearing some of their self-care.
I love telling my mamas, especially my new moms, right? Is like, after you get to the point that you're not strapped to the bed, because I believe in staying in the bed. You need to stay in the bed. But after that point, like, put your baby in a carrier. You don't have to leave your baby to go have fun. You could wrap your baby up, especially those breastfeeding moms that are like, I can't leave my breast at home. Like, so take your baby with you. And you can still do fun things, right? You can still go out and have these experiences and have two free hands and not have to carry all this stuff. I love telling my mamas to go out. Like, go find you something. Go find you something that is for you. Wrap that baby up. That baby's not going to know the difference.
What's up, everybody in the chat? We are here with Celena. Celena Martin. She is a wonderful, amazing birth worker with the Atlanta Doula Collective, and we are here interviewing her, and we chatting it up, and we talking about self-care and all that good stuff. So, like, what has so far since you've become a birth worker, like, what has this taught you? Just life lesson, everyday life, overall big picture.
Boundaries.
Bam.
It's taught me boundaries so much. And not like, I remember explaining that to somebody and they were like, oh, like, have you been in a space where you feel like your boundaries were crossed on like like I was offended by something because my boundaries were crossed? And that's not been the case. It's been a lot of navigating the space. Like, I'm still fairly new to being a doula, but I've done so much. So I got certified in October of last year. And since then, I'm on birth number, I think I just had 12 about 2 weeks ago.
Ooh, yes.
And I've had a total of like 14 clients because like 2 of them were just postpartum. I've done so much, right? And so I've learned like boundaries are more inclusive than just like, I don't like this, or I only like that. Like, boundaries include like, how often are you feeding yourself? How often are you resting? How well are you taking care of yourself? And what do you do in those moments when that's not as easy, right? Like being at a birth. I've been at a birth. Mom's baby was OP. That baby was sunny side up. She came side up. Mom had back labor for 3 days, but contractions stayed 3 minutes apart for 3 days. Like, and it was long and it was hard and it was so exhausting. And even though I was eating, I was not resting, right? And so then I started learning boundaries as far as like how to find rest in these spaces, like vocalizing to the partner, or vocalizing to whoever else is there, like, hey, let's sort of make a schedule because this looks like it's going to take a long time. You know, go lay down for an hour and a half, and when you come back, we'll switch it out. Boundaries aren't always about being offended, right?
Right.
But definitely what I've learned so much in this space is just boundaries and taking care of myself, because we don't always notice how small it is to like hold your pee for too long, right? Like if you have to pee, go to the bathroom. And we don't always notice, like, it seems so tedious until you start realizing, like, oh, it's been all day and I haven't eaten. Oh, I haven't had anything to drink all day and I wonder why my head's hurting. And you're like, oh, on a regular day I wouldn't do this. But what are the little habits that you're doing on a regular day that made this okay today? And so that's definitely one of the biggest lessons I've taken away from this. And then, like, be open to every experience. You know, birth is so intimate. Birth is so many things. It's sensual. It's just awe-inspiring, really. But it can also be scary. It can also be so many not so great things for so many people. And when we come as doulas to stand in intercession, to stand in these spaces and hold this space for these parents and these families, like, we have to come with an open mind too. Like, yes, I have a birth plan, but what else is going on? I'm such a big advocate of, like, plans change. Because regular day, like, I may have said I was going to do something and then I decided, like, oh, not today. And it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing that I didn't have the capacity to go to the grocery store today and it's going to be packed, right? So why do we make it seem like a bad thing sometimes when we talk about births not going according to plan, or when we talk about, you know, what we expected not being what it actually is? So being open to everything as a doula, and I've always been, like, I consider myself a lifelong learner. Like, if you could teach it to me, like, I'm gonna sit here and listen. And so when it comes to, like, birth, like, I love being in these spaces and just being able to, like, take away at least the knowledge that I could pass on to the next person. So yeah, I think it's been a lot that I've learned. I think it also contributes a lot because I haven't had my own children, right? Which is a thing that was intimidating when I first started work. Was like, I saw so many doulas, like, oh, how do you walk into this and you don't have a birth experience? All that sort of conversation when I first started. And I was like, nope, I was called here. I'm supposed to be here. I don't really know what it means, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And so when you hear me talk now, I'm like, yeah, I got 12, 13 babies. Like, that's just what it is. Like, I got all of these children and all of these families. But I haven't had my own yet. And just navigating that space is, I won't say it's difficult, but it's one of those things, like, I don't even know what else to expect other than what the last person had.
Right.
Like, I think that birth workers that are also parents, that are also mothers, are like, oh, I had this many children and at least this variable was the same with each child. Like I'm here, like, whatever happens, you know, like, I'm here. I don't know what to expect. Like, all we expect at the end of the day is a healthy mom and a healthy baby. And with as little trauma as possible, right? With the best experience possible to facilitate those two things collectively. So what does that look like? I don't have no variables to tell you, like, oh, all of my births, you know, got shorter every time. Like, I don't know that. I have no expectations to set other than we're going to do everything we can to have a healthy mom and a healthy baby, and the best experience possible that facilitates that. So
that's beautiful. And it's just like, it's the, I want to say, like, the key to happiness or something. Just like, not like you have your plans, you have, you know, a structure, but then having that flexibility to be able to, you know, be open to change. So I think I would say that would fall under self-care also. And those, your idea and how you introduce boundaries, I feel like that can definitely fall under self-care also. But Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. So for new moms looking for, doulas, like explain what your version of like proper doula support looks like, or, what they should look out for in a doula.
I'm gonna be very honest. I think the biggest thing that I tell people to be wary of when looking for a doula is coming in contact with a doula that doesn't that says that she doesn't have a community. Like she's the only person that does everything. Because there is no way that this one person is a doula, a midwife, a OBGYN, a Webster certified chiropractor, a lactation consultant, a pelvic floor therapist. It's so maternal mental health specialist. Like you just can't be all the things, right? And if you are, I feel like that means you're not an expert in any of them. Like to be an expert, you have to dedicate so much time to just one little narrow space of a thing, right? And so if you got all these things, you don't have all that much time to dedicate to any of them. So I tell people all the time, like when you're looking for a doula, find a doula that can tell you, like when you're in your interview during your consultation or whatever, ask like, what does your community look like? Like, do you have referrals? Are you open to finding referrals for those people that you don't have? Because I can say only recently has my network built up like exponentially fast, right? But when I first started, it was like, I don't have the answer to everything, but I'm going to find it, or I'm going to find somebody that can. And I've always been open to that. This is such a communal space, right? And it's such a collaborative space. And when we talk about like the maternal health crisis and this space that we're in right now politically, where they think doulas are the answer, like that's just not the case. And so it's already so much weight that we bear, like just showing up, just calling myself a doula and then showing up in this space. There's always so much weight to that, right? Especially right now. So when you're looking for a doula, just make sure you ask that question. Like, hey, what does your network look like? Because the truth is, every client isn't my client anyways, right? Like every client is not for me. But I can listen to you talk for a little while and tell you who may be for you. I may to refer you to somebody because I built that network. I built those people. And it's hard to find a person that is in this work because they really love it, right? Because I don't know the glorification of this work. I don't understand it. I see people do it like, everybody should be a doula. Like, no, you shouldn't. Everybody should be a doula. This work doesn't pay well. It's such a labor of love. This work is exhausting. It is depleting, right? And so many people struggle to like pour back into themselves. This isn't a space for everybody. But neither is being a mechanic. So I don't understand why it's so hard for people to grasp that concept right now. It's just important in this space to know that like people that show up in this space the way that we do, authentically, because we were called to be here, because this is what's satisfying to us, regardless of the pay, regardless of the honoraries, and regardless of the accolades that come with it. This is a space that baby, I am okay in this space, right? So fulfilled in this space. And finding people like that always means that you're going to find people that are able to connect with other people that feel the same way. So when looking for a doula, that's my biggest tip to anybody. It's like, when you look for a doula, find a doula that has a community.
That's some gems. I hope y'all expecting moms that are searching for doulas. I hope y'all are out here listening, because that was definitely a gem dropped. Okay, if I had a mic, I drop it. But yeah, but it's so true though, because it is a communal space, and it's just like we antisocial doula, like we don't, that don't make sense. So it definitely I understand that. So like, what are some of your like common yet surprising like scenarios, like out of all the, you know, amongst all the births that you've encountered, it's like, oh, like it's a surprising but yet common, something so common. But
do you mean like, I don't know, do you mean like things that I've witnessed in birth, or like the
just overall things that you've witnessed, or just realizations, epiphanies, like this is something so common that happens, like why is it so surprising that this always happens with every birth, even though we have the variables, but it's this one thing, like why? Or
yeah.
you know,
I think one of my biggest realizations is that everybody in the room is meant to take something away from every birth. You know, it's not just the mom, and it's not just the dad, and they usually take away different things, right? They usually experience birth differently, but everybody in the room, birth is such a spiritual plane that there's literally something for everybody in there, especially the people that are supposed to be there, right? But the people that's not supposed to be there, it may scare you, and you like, I'm never going to another birth in my life, because you wasn't supposed to be there. Because you wasn't supposed to be there.
factories.
But for the people that's supposed to be in the room, it's always something for somebody to take away from it. And it's something that is relevant to what you're going through, right? What you put out is what you attract.
Right.
But that includes resolutions. If you put out a problem, you can attract resolutions. And sometimes those resolutions come in the way that birth happens, in the things that we witness. I have seen some traumatic shit just being on the bottom end of a bed in a hospital. Like, you know, dads are usually up there at the top. They want to peek, they kind of want to see, but they ain't usually down there for the whole shit and shebang. But I've seen some stuff that I'd be like, no, this shouldn't be happening. And I've, you know, and I've vocalized it. And more and more in the past, I want to say 3 or 4 births that I've had, more and more I've learned the authority in my voice, right? It's like sometimes I say something and I know like I have a softer voice, and sometimes I could talk across the room, and when somebody doesn't hear me, I just dismiss it as like, oh, they didn't hear me, right? But sometimes like I need you to hear me, like right now, and just making sure that when I'm in these birthing spaces, and especially in these hospital spaces, right, where we have this birth plan, and I hate it when it's like we have this birth plan and the doctors and nurses are like, yeah, we can stick to it, all of this is realistic, until it's time to put it into action, right? Like if mom said she didn't want the bed broken down, why is the bed being broken down and y'all didn't ask her, right? Like she can move, she's not on an epidural, she doesn't need any stirrups, why are you breaking the bed down? Mom wants a 2-step delivery. I just recently found out a lot of places you do not have to tell them that they want a 2-step delivery. Like you don't have to tell them. So a 2-step delivery, for y'all that don't know, is that when baby's head comes out, there are some practitioners that will sort of scoop the baby's head and pull the rest of the baby out. I just recently learned that that's a thing like you have to tell practitioners not to do. And that was scary for me the first time that I saw it, because it was a student, it was a resident that was doing it. And she like couldn't get a good grip. She's like trying to turn and stuff. I'm like, this is scary, right? Like, and I had to take that with me. Not that it was a thing that I shared with the family, because, you know, not that it was a thing that I shared with the family, because like, no, mom would have freaked out. Mom wasn't one of those moms that could have took it right at the moment, right? But I'm there like, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. And they're like, oh, the shoulders are going to get stuck if I don't. What do you mean? You didn't give them a chance. Like, what does that mean? So just learning these little things is like, it's really mind blowing, just to see certain things that have to be said that just shouldn't have to be. And then be like, how many people walk into these spaces, into these spiritual spaces, and they walk away like, oh, that was supposed to happen. Or like, oh, there was nothing here for me. Like all I did was go in and birth a baby. Like there's nothing to that. Like literally I tell my families every time they have a baby, like, hey, your labor taught you something, not just about yourself, but about this child, right? if you had one of those stubborn babies that gave you hell in a box of bells the whole time you was in labor, and you and your husband stubborn, odds are you got a stubborn baby, right? The odds are you have a stubborn baby. Like, that just makes sense, right?
Right.
If you have a baby that showboated their way through your whole pregnancy, it was never nothing wrong with you, but every 2 seconds they was, I mean, just cutting the food, right? They come out and they sprawled out like they on the show. Odds are you have a baby that's a bit theatric. They may be into theater later, right? But so much more. There's so much more to that, right? And just the way that I tell my parents, like, reflect on birth when you go to raise these children. Like, if you had to give yourself grace in birth, give yourself grace through parenting. Give yourself grace through really the rest of your life, and give your child grace to do the things that they're going to do. Because birth shows you, like, kids are going to do what they want. Like, that's the first place that you learn, like, kids are going to do what they want. And not just what they want, but like when they want to do it. Like,
Exactly.
you cannot rush a birth. Like, that's not a thing. You cannot. That's not a thing. And so I just try to be very mindful of that. And I'm always very intentional about, like, telling my families, like, go get a journal, write it down. Or like in my first postpartum appointment, like sitting down, like, okay, I was physically with you, but tell me what your birth experience was like. Because I experienced it differently than you did. And not just asking that question to the mom or to the birth giver, but like to the dad too. Like,
right
in the room, but you wasn't pushing the baby out. So what were you feeling like? How did that do? So
yeah, wanting to learn birth from all different perspectives, not just yours.
yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Yo, Celena over here dropping bombs on them. Hold on, wait a minute. And Chanel said, one joyful doula said, birth is a mirror and a future teller. That is so true. So true. Yeah, I'm excited. We going in. So shout out to everybody in the chat room real quick. We here with Celena tonight for Meet the ADC, and she's just giving so much wisdom right now. And I'm about to let me see what's so. What are some ways, like, how have you stepped outside of your comfort zone lately? Yes.
I feel like I'm always teetering on stepping out of my comfort zone, right? Like, I'd be like, "Ooh, that water hot."
About a little bit.
Lately, how have I been stepping out of my comfort zone? I have always believed in the power of networking. But until I was a doula and I realized, like, the importance, I always knew the importance of community. Like, you know how New Orleans is, like, community. Like, your whole community, that's all you got. All you got. I always knew that. But I didn't understand that in a professional sense for a long time, because I had all of those jobs that were just like, they don't care about you here. Like, they don't, you know, they could care less what you do or how you do it. And so stepping out of my comfort zone, it was a very big step for me to get into these spaces and, like, show up 100%. Like, I've always been in the room, right? I'm going to walk into the room, at least peek my head around and see who in there. But definitely one of the biggest ways that I've stepped out of my comfort zone recently is, like, when I walk into the room, I don't even give a damn who there no more. Like, y'all know I'm here, and that's all that matters. Like, but that was a very big step for me. Like I said earlier, like, I always just sort of brush myself off. It's like, I have a soft voice. They probably don't hear me. Like, it's cool. Like, they not ignoring me. They just don't hear me. Like, that's fine. Like, that's how it's been for, like, so long for me. When I was growing up, I had problems with my ears. So sometimes it's hard for me to hear somebody. And I'm like, you know, I'm not ignoring you. I just don't hear you. So it's okay. Like, you don't have to repeat yourself. I didn't have to. If I didn't hear the first time, I didn't have to. Because I know I get when I have to repeat myself. But, like, showing up as, like, my full self, showing up 100% authentically, like, this is my space as much as everybody else's, has been the biggest, like, jump in for me.
Okay, it. You're supposed to be in these spaces. You are where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Moment, you know what I'm saying? That's what's up, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, some people, they take a bit more courage to do something like that. You know, especially being outward in public. You know,
Right.
I have that too. So like anxiety through the roof. Like I'll dance in front of everybody, but speaking at intimate crowds, like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah. And so
Feel
I
that.
and then another thing, right, is like the intimacy in all of these spaces, even in just our communities. Like it's just always intimate in our community. And so it just feels like you always almost whispering in somebody's bedroom is what it used to feel like to me. Like, are y'all in there? Are you, can I come in? Like, and now I'm realizing that like this my room as much as it is everybody else's. And when I show up, and you know, recently I have a client that recently told me like she hired another member onto her birth team.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh, and I told them that, you know, you're my doula. And they said they heard all about you and they're so excited to meet you, this, and this. And she sent me their name. I was like, I don't know who the hell this is, but my name doing what it's supposed to do.
That's right, too. Yes.
What it's supposed to do. And just realizing that I am like making an imprint somewhere that like, you know, people are noticing what I'm doing, and in a space that like I know I'm supposed to be, I know I've been called to for so long, is it's really been like a huge eye opener, but definitely like way out of my comfort zone. I think outside of that, it's been like interacting with all of these people, right? Not just our communal spaces, but like people see me with like my doula shirts on in public and they're like, you're a doula? So you deliver babies? Like, that's not what I do. That's not what I do.
There you go with the question.
But let me tell you what I do, right? So like now everywhere I go, like I was always the kind of person like I'm gonna talk to anybody, especially in like familial places. But now it's like everywhere I go, like I'm prepared to give you a speech. Let me tell you.
Let me run it down to you.
I tell you all the things. Like, and when I'm done, I get so into it. Like I become so passionate about it when I'm talking about it. I'll forget to even tell you my name. They'll be like, "Oh, you a doula?" Like, yeah, I'm a doula. So what does that look like? What does that mean? Like, let me tell you. Like, into it. And they'd be like, "Wow, thank you. This is so much great information." I'm like, "All right, you have a great day." And I'm
like, who is she? So I mean, but that you know, we have to sharpen or, you know, kind of work that muscle. So you're getting into the networking now, so you're aware of it. So now it's just like, okay, tweaking and yeah, but that's what's up. That's awesome. Like just owning the room. Like
yeah.
you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be here. So yes, and you're doing an awesome job in the community.
Thank you.
Yes, really. But and I definitely can't wait to see like you as, you know, in the like further on down the line, like once you get more experience under your belt, like girl, you will be I can't see
Yeah,
it.
definitely excited for what's coming. I know definitively I know of a couple of things that are coming.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I plan on branching out.
Mm-hmm.
That I'll probably transition more into postpartum for like the early part of next year. There's certain things that I'm just very much looking forward to. Partially to just give myself a break. Because working as a doula and working for Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies is consumptuous. Like it's a lot. And so I don't want to show up in anybody's space without being myself, without being fully who I am. And recently, like I be having to like dig, like, come on, sister girl, let's bring that out so we can show up. But I know that like it's time for me to just slow down a little bit. Cause like I said, like, let me see. I had my first birth in December of last year. I got certified in October, had my first birth in December. By December of this year, I'll have like 14, 15 clients, something like that, and would have attended like 13 of the 15 births. that's a lot, right? That's so much. In this year, I've also had like 4 different jobs until I got with Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, and I don't plan on leaving this one no time soon.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I've moved. I've just all the things, right? Life doesn't stop just because you find your space. Like it just keeps going and you just continue to be in your space and just, adjusting with whatever life moves.
Yes.
So it's been a lot. I know I'm going to slow down a bit next year and show up differently. And just planning the way that I'm going to show up next year. I'm very excited for that. So
I'm looking forward to seeing it. And seeing the growth. So like you're like looking at what's going on in birth and the birthing spaces now, like how do you see birth evolving? How do you see it transitioning? Or
I don't
like
know if I'm going to call it a transition.
mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, or a lot of times when we think about transition, we think of it as like rounding a corner, like coming from one side to the other. I think I've been looking at it more of a transcendence where we are coming up and bringing everything that we already had. I think we really get lost in that word transition, especially when we start talking about birth. I definitely see a transcendence, but I also see a weight even heavier than the one that we're already bearing, right? My Aisha Lindbergh said it perfectly a couple of weeks ago at a doula access working group meeting that we were having for the state of Georgia. We have them every other month now. And she said it perfectly. Everybody is horny for doulas. Everybody's horny for doulas. The politicians, the hospitals, the doctors' offices and stuff, but nobody really knows what this means and what this looks like, right? Like there's already a murky water, like doula versus midwife. But now, like Morehouse is doing this PPM project where you want to start sort of adding like a social worker element into it. There's another university, and I can't think of the name of it right now, that is doing a project that's sort of adding a like medical facilitator, medical assistant element into it. And so there's all of these things that are just like beating down on the weight of what we already do. And so as much as I see it as this like elevation, right? Like the publicity, we've all heard that saying, like no publicity is bad publicity, because somebody's hearing about it, right? People are coming to understand what is a doula and what is the importance of a doula, especially Black women in our spaces, right? We're seeing more of these. I even saw a post recently, which was an OBGYN. She had a doula and she said, I work in the hospital and wouldn't dare give birth there. And she had a home birth with a traditional midwife. And it was, we're seeing this elevation definitively. Like it's happening and there is no way to stop it. But we're also seeing this like oncoming crushing weight. And so as like excited as I am to see like all of these people be educated and all of these people, reclaiming their birth and their birthing experiences and really wanting the best for themselves and for their children outside of Black people always consider the bare minimum, right? Like at least I have a baby that survived. Like, okay, but did you have to have all the other things? At least I didn't bleed to death like some people did. And that's tragic and it does happen. But did you have to get so far that was a possibility, right? We see so many things that are like, you was almost there. Like you was just one hair shy of not making it out of this. And Black people, the way that we've been cultured and brought up, is like we should be grateful for being a hair shy. And so I'm glad to see in this elevation that we're coming away from that logic. It's like we deserve everything plus some, right? We do everything plus, and so why wouldn't we deserve at least that in return? So I love to see it, but I'm also very anxious about everything that comes with that, right? because once it's political, it's a money thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's about power. Once it's political, it's about power. And we know what power and money does.
Right.
Not in this country, but all over the world. Like, we see what that does. We see what that looks like. We see that when we had the best odds in especially Black maternal mortality, it was when we had traditional midwives, you know, in the country, not making a whole lot of money, doing this out of shed in the back of their house, whatever. And they had the best rates. They were the most fulfilled. They were the most satisfied. But I just see it becoming a thing where, especially once we start getting into like the Medicaid reimbursement for doulas and that sort of thing, I definitely am almost fearful of it becoming a space where people think, oh, I can make all this money, or where all these regulations come out and like doula care is so individualized. Like, how do you regulate this space?
Right.
And them essentially doing to us what they did to the midwives, to the granny midwives. So as hopeful and excited as I am, I'm also anxious and sort of fearful of it. And you know, we just pray for the best. We just continue to show up in these spaces. And really, I'm glad that I'm one of those people that's into politics. I love that I like this space because I know so many doulas that don't, right? That prefer like, I just want to sit in these spiritual spaces. And like me, like, I'm gonna sit in the spiritual, but let me show up for you physically in the politics, in in the rooms. Like, take me to the courthouse, and I'm gonna tell it to them. So I'm glad that that's the space that I enjoy being in. But managing the two spaces is always such a hard thing. It's such a tedious thing. So we show up in all the spaces that we're called to show up in. I think that's what's important, is that I know there's other doulas like myself that enjoy political spaces, right? That enjoy political conversations. And if that's the thing that you like, you show up in that space as well, so that you're able to advocate for those of us that don't feel like they have the words to express those things, that don't feel comfortable coming out publicly like traditional midwives, that don't have the space or the platform to even say, like, this is what I do and I should be protected in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And just showing up, and we're all called to more than one thing, right? Whether it's for a time period or you're called to multiple things at a time, we're all called in our life to more than one thing. And just showing up to all the things you're called for, I just hope and pray is the thing that, you know, keeps us level here, where it doesn't become a scary place to like be practicing as a doula.
Right. Right. Man, that's definitely a great way to see it, to see how every, like, just based on what's going on now, just kind of looking at how things might turn out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is scary, especially with all of these, you know, laws being passed and Roe versus Wade and all that stuff. Like, it's just, it's kind of making the spaces a little more difficult to navigate, a little more scary for the, you know, the birthing moms and even the birth workers, the doulas. So, but again, like you said, just allowing us as birth workers to continue to hone in on these skills and the knowledge and showing up as ourselves, you know, and do it like the networking and the knowledge, like continued education and just being present in these spaces. Like, everything is a learning experience, like especially in birth, you know. So I agree with you with that, and that definitely was a powerful answer. We are, what time is it? So we are coming up to maybe like 4 minutes. So I want to first of all thank you again for just being awesome, being who you are, and just continuing. I'm like so excited to see your growth and just how, you know, how everything is going to turn out with you in the birth space. So feel free to let the family know how to contact you if you have anything coming up soon, you know, providing any classes. Feel free to share.
Yeah, so obviously you guys can just follow me on my Instagram. It's probably the best place to like see what I have going on. I don't think I specifically have any classes or anything going on. But I know that the ADC will be bringing back our pickle classes. And you know, I think I'm in a very serene space right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that's coming up, and if I think about it before these 3 minutes are up, I'll let you guys know. But it's not written down, so it's just in my mind. Like I know this thing is coming. Um,
So, your real quick, your Instagram is seeing you through, right?
mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna post it in the chat. Okay, finish. Sorry.
Okay.
Understanding birth work doula
Yeah,
training.
the interstate birthwork training, love that training. I took it myself, y'all. It's dope. I think that's one of the biggest things that I missed out on in my certifying body was like Black specific anything. Because I was trained in a white organization. Don't get me wrong, it got my foot in the door, but being in a space that allows me to really hone in on everything that I love, including my own people, was a great training. So we do have the understanding birthwork training. Um, I think that's really it. Like just shouting out the stuff that the ADC got going on.
Shout out ADC.
Let me think. I don't think there's much else for me right now. I am taking a doula sabbatical from September 15th to October 15th. So I will be honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a trip, or if I'm gonna you know, just like get off of social media again, because I only just got back on.
Yeah.
Like for me, but I know what it won't look like. It won't look like doula appointments.
Or some of these new versions of self-care. We're gonna try
Yeah,
to do that.
maybe I'll go for a hike. I haven't been hiking in a long time. Maybe I'll go for a hike.
Yeah.
Go hiking. Let me think. I don't think there's much else going on, Quita. I think I'm just learning. Like I have so everything that I can think about going on coming up for me is like learning opportunities and continuing education and trainings like my matrona training, like my practitioner's class. I'm doing the lactation education training, sort of doing the lactation education training as I oversee that program. Um,
Forever birth, the forever continued education skill. Okay, so it's definitely great that you're taking some time. Like you have births under your belt, so now it's time to get into the books a little bit. That's understandable. Finding that balance, so that's awesome. And good luck on that. And wishing you, of course, the best. Um, Trying to see what time is it right now? Oh, I thought somebody put something in the chat. But so yeah, so if that's it, if you guys would like any more information about Celena, please visit her Instagram. It's seeing you through with the CEEING, you through. And if there's any questions that you have for her, if you would like her to be your doula or would like to schedule a consultation, please feel free to reach out to her on her IG, on the ADC's IG and website, AtlantaDoulaCollective.org. And for more information on classes, events, which are free, so let's keep that out there. Stay tuned to ADC. ADC Instagram, and of course, again, the website, adc.org. So thank you again, Celena. Is there any last words? Anything you want to leave the family, our birthing mamas and fellow doulas?
I just appreciate the support so much in this space, y'all. Like I said, I'm young. I'm real young. I don't have children of my own, but this space has been more than welcoming. It's been more than inviting, and I've been nothing but like poured into this space. So, Quita, I do appreciate your time here, girl. You know, shout out to Chanel, who's like taking me under her wing, like a big sister.
Right.
Stalking me on Facebook, y'all. And all my birth people, like shout out to all the families that allow me to just stand in these spaces. Y'all know I love y'all too. So I think that's really all I got. Like I'm just so grateful to be here in this space, and so grateful that like y'all keep welcoming me back. Like y'all keep like, oh, come back. Like cool. Like cool.
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Celena. And I wanted to give a special shout out. Shout out to Chanel and Sakisa for Black Breastfeeding Week. I saw the YouTube, like, y'all did an amazing job. So I just wanted to shout you guys.
Link.
I'm
Send
sorry.
me the YouTube link.
You need the link?
Send me the YouTube link. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. But yes, so shout out to you guys. Shout out to you, Celena. Thank you so much again for your time. Thank you for your contributions to the community and to ADC. And I